Here we are. I've been tremendously ill, so you have to excuse how my voice sounds at the moment because I'm still getting over an illness. But old clothes, gloves, no jewellery, hair tied back, and as you can see there's a big hole in the front of the engine. We've been dismantling and dismantling, and I am well out of my comfort zone here. But I'm getting it done. And it's not actually the Haynes manual I'm following, because I've found that to be actually not very helpful. But I've been going off a few videos on YouTube. The problem is, this is the 2.5 litre 10 valve petrol engine, non-turbo, and it doesn't seem like it exists out there. Everybody's going on about the 20 valve performance model, which has slightly different pipework. But from those videos I've managed to piece together what I need to do. And we're pretty much at the point where I start putting it back together, but with the new bits. Now, there's been a bit of a saga. Now, in good faith, I ordered a load of parts. The only place I seemed to be able to get them was from a Volvo dealership down in Swansea. And they checked with Volvo. Volvo said, yes, these parts are available, ready to order. They ordered them. The order went through, which the guy said, that means they're there, they're ready to ship. So, acting in good faith, I began dismantling this car, ready for the new parts to arrive today. Unfortunately, when those parts arrived at the dealership in Swansea, ready to then be posted onto me, it turns out Volvo had decided they didn't actually have the part. But instead of telling them when they found out, they just sent a box with all the parts and a little note of paper that said on indefinite back order. Which is no good. Now Volvo, if you're watching this, that is not customer service. That is annoying people. And I have complained accordingly in that very British way of writing a letter. But so now I'm left trying to piece together from the bits that did arrive whether there is enough salvageable from the old system for me to be able to make this thing work again. It's just really a case of cleaning things up. But it was clear that there were a couple of big issues that really have come to light when I've been delving into this, which have probably been the reason that it's exhibited a few problems.
See that? Oh, there we go.
Little trick for testing your PCV system, and this car has failed. One of which is the oil separator, which we look down there on the floor, is that you can see there's two, because we've got the new one at the front and the old one at the back. The old one at the back weighs almost twice as much, and that's because it's gummed up with cack. Now I also had to dig cack out of the bottom port, the oil return port on the engine. But probably the bigger issue is if I pull this back up, this is on the vacuum line and it's part of the PCV system, but it's split. And that means there would have been a vacuum leak there. And vacuum leaks are bad, because when the car's sucking, instead of sucking through this hole, path of least resistance, it'll suck through the hole that's not supposed to be there instead, and not actually quite do its job properly. So we can also see that that tube is pretty bunged up as well. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can really put together enough stuff out of this, and I'm winging this. You're looking at somebody here who has spent a lifetime, really. I know how to change oil, I know how to change a tyre, and I've done an occasional odd little bits of pieces on a car, but this is well out of my comfort zone. The last engine I rebuilt was a 1950 Land Rover Series 1. And I have done a few others, but they've all been engines that were probably about 50 years old. So modern technology is scary. And they put so much in here. They don't leave you very much space to get your hand in to undo the bolts, do they? Anyway, I'm going to crack on, and then we'll come back, hopefully, when we're done. And might even work when I start it up. Well, we've got our essential supplies there, can of Diet Coke and a whole load of gloves. I worked hard last night and did quite a bit of work underneath the bonnet on this, and nearly got it complete, and It's quite difficult to film actually because the light being so bright does seem to have some issues with the camera. So you can see we kind of got everything back together almost. Just the light failed me, so I haven't quite got all that airbox stuff back together. But then this morning I woke up with an awful feeling that I forgot to tighten one of the clips somewhere down there, and unfortunately it would mean taking everything out to get at it. So I'm going to ponder that. I'm going to actually see if I can poke something down there and just feel around and see whether it is actually loose or not, just to try and ease my mind. And I really do hope that I did actually tighten that, because obviously that's a hell of a job to get all that back out. Zoe took some video yesterday which showed it all out. There we go. Hopefully it'll work. That's the plan. Do you know how I said earlier on that I woke up this morning with this awful feeling that I'd forgotten to tighten a clamp? But then this morning I woke up with an awful feeling that I forgot to tighten one of the clips somewhere down there. I've just checked it, used the dipstick, cleaned the oil off it, poked it down and just tried to rest it on the clamp in question, and I can move that clamp, it moves. Which means I've got to take everything back out again. I'm not even going to try and start it because it's liable to blow that hose off, and that means potentially engine oil, hot engine oil, spraying all over the engine bay, and I don't want that as a massive fire risk. And anyway, it's just, it can't run like that. So I've got to take the fuel rail back off, I've got to take the inlet manifold back off. It's a big job, luckily not quite as big as the actually replacing parts, but I'm going to have to crack on if I want to get that done. And verified that just as I finished putting the last component on the thing. Oh, come on, everybody who's worked on cars has done this at least once, something like this. My father's story actually is he wrote the engine off on a Rover P4, because him and his friend from university rebuilt it on the cheap, and one of them thought the other had tightened up. I think it was the big end bolts, the bearing bolts, and the other one thought the other had. So consequently the engine was assembled with a load of bolts only hand tight, and the inevitable happened on the first time it was run. So it's not quite that bad, at least I've discovered it. But I'm going to have to delve in now. I'm going to have to get on with that. So I'm not going to film until I've done it. I can't believe it. But it's just, you know how you have this thing. I remember putting the clamp on the hose and then putting the hose on the top of the oil separator. And then for whatever reason, I hadn't eaten a lot. I got distracted. And it happens. Right. Well, I tell you what. Knowing what the hell you're doing makes a huge difference. It's taken me 20 minutes to do what took me about 4.5 hours last time. So what I have found is I have confirmed that this here, as you can see, was not done up. So, at least I don't have to take all of that out. So you can see in there what I've MacGyvered together, because they couldn't supply the part, they supplied a load of wrong parts. But I'm just hoping that that gasket hasn't taken too much of a punishment, because I don't have another one, so I'm going to reuse the new one, which has already been tightened up once. What's interesting though is a couple of the bolts felt loose, so I'm going to have to be a little bit more gung-ho with the way I tighten things up, and maybe once I've tightened one set of bolts, go around, tighten another, and then go back again. But I can't work and film at the same time, so what I'm going to do actually is I've got the old pieces. So what I wanted to show you here, this is the old oil separator, and I'm just trying to bring it to focus down there, and it's all full of gunk. It's actually really difficult to focus on, but you have to take my word for it. This whole piece here actually weighed probably, I'd say, about 50% more than it should have done, and that's all just gunk. Absolutely full of gunk, and yeah, it's very difficult to see, but take my word for it. Some of the other old components. This actually did clean up, and it's probably reusable, so I'm going to keep it just in case there's a spare. This goes down at the bottom. It's the drain back into the engine for separated oil, and that was actually completely solid. It was just like a solid plug with gunk. So I think what's actually been happening is the separated oil and stuff isn't being able to cycle back into the engine block, so instead it's just gone straight into the throttle body, and that's why that's been so gunged up. Also found a major vacuum leak. You can see there as I flex that, it's a big split there. So it was also the PCV system's vacuum line. It was just sucking air from atmosphere, which is never a good thing. Right, important stuff, fire extinguisher. And over there we have a hose pipe. And there's the car all assembled. Once you actually know what you're doing, it is surprisingly easy. Well, she says, not having actually started the thing yet. So, I've just spotted the one thing I've missed, which is putting the case back on here. Right, battery pack on. And I'm going to take this with me. I do trust myself, you do understand that. It's just, I don't trust myself. Well, let's see, will it start? Wind the window down just to make sure that I can hear any problems. Oh my word, idle speed seems alright. Let's go and take a look. That wasn't a nutter bolt wrapping around inside. Well, seems to work. We've got no warning lights on the dashboard. I'm going to run it obviously till it gets warm, and then do the dipstick test. So might have you back for that. Well, I will have you back for that, because I need to show you whether it has or hasn't worked, and we can compare it to how it was before. But let's have a look there. Still no warning lights on the dashboard. Not that I was expecting them, but it did start reasonably well okay. The battery pack is a little bit, and I think a lot of that is down to the fact that it's got a not so great battery connected across it, which is probably taking quite a big draw. But I'll do the rev and smoke test, and then the glove, see if the car inflates the glove and gives me the finger or not. Okay, well we can see here now that engine's running, and it is not inflating the glove. And if you look back and see the footage that we took before I embarked on this epic quest, you can see it was slowly inflating the glove. And the other thing as well was it was blowing smoke rings out of the dipstick, which it isn't anymore. So there we go, she rides, all fixed. Well, actually there you are. So I did manage to fix the Volvo in the end. I did keep you hanging a bit, but we've just been ever so busy with stuff that's come up. And if you watch Zoe's channel, The Zog, you'll know a little bit about what's been going on. But Volvo's back together, all those problems fixed. Now, what's interesting is that those components that came off, what we're actually looking at is components that were probably the originals to when the car left the factory from being built. But they're supposed to be changed every 100,000 miles. The car had actually done 225,000 miles, so as you can imagine, well overdue. So hopefully this solves a lot of the emissions problems, idle speed problems, little things like that, and just generally keeps the engine in good repair, less likely for it to blow out, things like the rear main oil seal. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has been quite informative. YouTube does have a lot of videos of people undertaking this task on the 20 valve performance turbocharged version of the engine. But what I discovered is that the PCV system in particular is quite different between the two. There are some common pieces, but there are a lot of other pieces which aren't, and so that's why I had to MacGyver that part, because they were just quite simply not available. And what I've been told is that anybody who really likes a Volvo 850 enough to keep hold of one tends to want to have the high performance version. So the economy version of the engine, which is what I've got, is actually getting quite rare. I did look up on the DVLA database, and I think something like 54 still in existence in the UK, which, down from an initial high of somewhere around 4,500 sold in the UK, that's quite a drop. But anyway, I hope this video has been informative to you. Don't forget to like this video, share it too, and subscribe to the channel, and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they come on up. But until next time, you take very good care of yourself, and it's me, Kirk, saying bye for now.